Hi guys, this is Gary Pope from Late to the Table. Now I have a little bit of a different video today where I'm actually going to be showing an unedited cut version of basically everything I did with my little version of Cash and Guns, which I basically made this waterproof. Now it's not going to be a step-by-step how-to on basically how to assemble your own, but it's basically going to give you the guidelines of what you're going to need in order to create your own. Now in this video you're going to see in a second, I accidentally forgot to turn on the camera at first. So there's going to be a few, you roughly only miss about 30 seconds of it. And it's not really much. It's really just me putting the game on the table and then me initially opening it up like I'm doing right here, and then me taking out like two things, and that's it. So it's going to be a little bit weird, but for the most part that's all that happens. But hopefully this video helps you guys out, and hopefully you'll be able to create your own copies of Cash and Guns that's waterproof, that you can have with water guns and everything like that. So hopefully it helps you guys out, and enjoy the video. Thanks. Okay, I'm back. So what I have for these examples, actually, I'm going to open them first, is I have these KMC perfect sleeves. I have a link in the description, and basically you use these for perfect size, for double sleeving, because they're the perfect size sleeves. So this is making for a great video. Okay, so you take one of the cards, and basically it's pretty simple. If anyone's dealt with these magic cards, you already know what the deal. You can skip over the next like minute or whatever of the video. And let me get this in focus as well. So basically what you could do is you take the card out, you take the perfect sleeve, the perfect fit, and let's see if this actually fits. I actually didn't test this out before I put this on video, but let's see. And yeah, perfect fit. It fits perfectly. Now what you usually want to do is not do what I just did. You would actually want to put it in there upside down. The reason why you want to put it upside down is because to make this waterproof, one, that has to be a perfect fit. And then after that, you're going to put it in upside down or right side up into the matte sleeve so it's the right way. So this makes it a lot more waterproof. You're going to get a little bit of like a little piece at the end there, but to make this waterproof, that's definitely worth it. Actually, I think it came out a little bit, so let's actually tuck it in there a little bit to get rid of that, and it should actually work now. Let's see. Oh, so now it's actually a perfect fit. So there you go. You do that with every single one of your cards. Then your cards, they're not entirely waterproof to the point where you could dump them in a cup of water, but to play on a table in this situation with water guns, they will work actually really well. So that's how you sleeve your cards. The next cards are, these are going to be a little less waterproof resistant, but what I would suggest in these is you get these cards. What you're going to basically do is you're going to get these tarot card sleeves, and you basically sleeve them just like any other cards. Now you could try double sleeving them. I'm not entirely certain of how that fits. The other thing is I'm going to actually show you laminating in a second. You can actually just try laminating all of these cards. That'll take forever because there's a ton of cards, so I would suggest sleeving. And if they get wet, they get wet. This is with a copy that's supposed to be waterproof, so I mean, worst case scenario, I don't know, you go out and buy a new copy, I guess. But yeah, so you basically use tarot cards. I have these card sleeves in the description so you can use them. And let's actually turn down the light a little bit. Yeah, there you go. And then, yeah, sleeve them all, and then you're all set. Hey guys, just to interrupt the video really quickly. Now, regarding the tarot cards, I just want to go into a tiny bit of details of them because they're a little bit, I guess the best way to put it is they're a little bit more finicky than you'd expect. Now, with the tarot cards I got these ones, and these are, I believe these are the, what are the brand? The Ultra Pro. I believe these are Ultra Pro 120 by 70 millimeter card sleeves. Now, as you can see with them, it's a little bit bright and classy, but as you can see, they're not. It's a bit overlapping. It's not tight on. It's not perfect. I looked online to see if I could find any replacements or an idea of which one to get instead, and there's not many options. Now, if you're going to double sleeve these, I would suggest getting one of these versions, which is the 120 by 70, and then on top of that, there's also these 120 by 60s, and I believe they're also Ultra Pro, if I'm not mistaken, as well. If they're something different, I'll correct that in the description. I'll put a link for you guys, but from what I've heard online is that if you put on the 120 by 60s, it fits exactly on it, and it could possibly cause bending damage or anything like that. So just as a heads up, when you're getting card sleeves for this, If you want the ones that are definitely going to fit, but it's flimsy, it's really loose, then get the 120s by 70s. But if you want the ones that are going to be tight fitting, then get the 120s by 60s. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I saw on forums that people were having different results. One person's, their cards were bending, and another person's, their cards actually fit in it perfectly. So I like to just give you that heads up and that warning. So let's continue with the video. Next thing is, and this is by far the most, oh, and there's more cards here. You could use little, what are these? I think these are technically called American style sleeves. You can use those on these. I'll have a description. But yeah, use those American style sleeves on these, and you could double sleeve these because these also could get really wet too. But yeah, you do that for every single one of these mini cards as well. Now, the hardest and most annoying thing that's out of the ordinary. Oh, by the way, I didn't do anything about these health tokens. I mean, reasons why is two things. One, if they get wet, whatever, they're impossible to laminate. Like, I tried laminating one of these things, took forever, was not worth it. It wasn't even close to being even remotely okay looking. Worst case scenario, if these get damaged, go out and buy some like health tokens or use anything. Just throw a penny at the person. That means that they got hit or whatever. These are basically, out of all the things in this box that don't need to be waterproof, these are your least concern in my opinion. So now onto the actual game pieces themselves. Now all of these pieces, what I ended up doing was actually I ended up laminating all of these pieces. Now how I went about laminating it was a little bit untraditional, I guess you could say. But there's a couple ways you could go about it. This is by far the most annoying thing to do, and this is laminating everything. And of course, if you laminate your stuff, what's going to happen is just be aware. It hasn't happened to me yet. I did this roughly about 6 to 8 months ago. But what happens to a lot of people is that over time, the cardboard on the inside will start turning yellow. And I think that's years down the line. Like I want to say that's like 2-3 years, maybe even more down the line that starts happening. But I mean, worst case scenario, this is a $30 game at most. If it gets you through a few summers where you're playing it several times, it's worth every penny. And not only that, if it gets yellow, whatever. This is a waterproof version. Who cares if it looks a little bit worse than the regular version? So the way that's done laminating is I've tried several different ways to do this. The first way, in which I'm pretty sure a bunch of you are going to maybe try to do, which is what I did, was use a laminating machine. Now, unless if you have a large laminating machine, it's not going to work. And I'll show you an example. Actually, I won't show you an example, but I'll show you what kind I use. So I have this laminating machine. It's an Amazon basic one. It's one of the most generic ones, one of the most cheapest ones. And for the price you pay, I think this was like 20, maybe 30 bucks tops. It works really well. It works really well. I've used this on several different projects. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I think I made like an expansion to Comet and I used this and it worked pretty well. But for this case, this piece of cardboard are too thick to work with it, so you can't use this. But I still managed to get some use out of this, and I'll show you in a second. I won't show you hands-on, but I'll just tell you in a second. So what you're going to use to laminate these pieces is you're going to use self-adhesive laminating sheets. And basically here's a box, like an example of a box I got. It's back it up a little bit. This is basically self-adhesive laminating sheets. And basically all you do is you basically just put it on. It'll stick to both ends, and then you cut around it. As you can see here, here's like a piece of sheet from it. You get 2 pieces of it, you put it inside, and you cut around it. Now, one issue I ran into is because of cutting around it, I needed to seal it at particular points. It wasn't sealed perfectly, if I recall correctly. That was one of the major issues I ran into. And you'll see that in a second, where there's a lot of weird shapes, so it's hard to cut around it. So basically what I did was I cut around it. It was then basically kind of loose on the ends. Like you basically can peel it apart if you really want to, and it wasn't exactly waterproof. So what I ended up doing was, and you could go about this in different ways, is because I already had this laminating machine, I basically, back it up. I basically turned this on, I let it run, and let's get that in focus. Okay. And after it got hot, I literally would stick the end of it, and just the end of it, so that then that end would get hot, it would melt together, then flip it, put it in, melt, get together, flip it, melt, and it'll get together. And I did that for literally every single piece. Now you'll see in a second now when you're not dealing with a rectangle, how annoying that could get. Now, let's say for example, we get Yoko over here. Now, Yoko is not just a flat character or anything like that. They have a lot of weird shapes around them. So let's get this as close as possible. Let's dim that down a bit so you can see it a bit better. Okay, so Yoko, as you can see, is not the flattest character. There's curves and everything all around. So basically what I ended up doing is that I had to basically do the exact same thing. Now, one thing I would suggest for you guys is if you don't have a laminating machine like I do, what you can do instead is you could get like a match and basically burn around all of the ends. Yeah, you get like a little match and burn around all of the ends. That'll take a little bit of time. Actually, you know, probably easier is if you get one of those little grill torches they use. They're long. You just ignite the end, and it's like a little long torch, and it lights at the very end. If you get one of those, that'll probably actually work perfectly with lighting all of these and basically sealing all of them around all of the edges. You might have to get two because you might run out of gas after a little bit. But that's one way I could think of doing that. But basically, once you have all of the edges sealed, all of the characters are done. Also, what I did with all the characters is that I believe all the characters came with their own stands, and I basically had to cut around the bottoms. I remember this being pretty annoying too. All of the bottoms of the characters, I'd actually cut off what I laminated there so I could put the little stand there so they could stand freely. So that then when you do the whole, they're standing there and you knock them over, they still work. So that was one issue I ran into as well, I recall. So yeah, once you laminate all of the characters, all of the items, you then double sleeve all of the cards if possible. If you don't double sleeve the card, just be aware that it's gonna get a little bit wet. But if you double sleeve the cards, you should be more than fine. You do that. I don't know if you could double sleeve the tarot cards, but you could give it a shot. They don't have perfect sleeve tarot cards as far as I recall, but if I find some, I'll put them in the description. But yeah, you do that. You try best to double sleeve the American size or whatever, the mini cards. Do that as well. Don't care about these cards, screw those ones. And then that's about it. And also get the water guns, of course. Once you have the water guns and everything, there you go. You have a entire waterproof set of caching guns. Now, just as a heads up, in order to have done all of this, it does take a decent amount of time. If I recall with me, even just laminating the characters alone, that was at least an hour and a half, maybe even a 2-hour process to do that. I mean, and also, of course, then sleeving all the cards isn't all that bad either. It's just whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video for you guys because it's now the summertime, so hopefully you might be able to get some use out of this. You might make this in the afternoon and then be able to play the next day. I actually, as you can see, not having double sleeved everything, haven't even gotten to use mine. I thought of this idea last fall. It was kind of too late. And I was like, oh, let me at least get the jump on making it. And now I actually need to finish it up myself. So there you go. That's how you make your waterproof version of caching guns. Once again, this is Gary Pope from Late to the Table, and hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, guys. Bye.